So you often hear about left versus right brain, and even in the way that it's talked about, it's like they're at war. Well, what we try to do at blinds.com is make them work together. Have very, very creative ideas, but then run it through run it through a way to examine whether or not it's actually going to work for the consumer. And also not get into this place where we're looking at it only. We want consumers to be looking at what we're designing, telling us what works, and really making our conversion go up. So what we've done to do this is really made experimentation a part of our company culture, not just within marketing, though you can see that it is a very big place within marketing. We even consider ourselves a little bit of mad scientists. We call ourselves the Idea Lab, and we just try to bring that into every day of what we talk about. But it's across our company. Experimenting without fear of failure is one of our core values. It's one of the biggest ones that we talk about, and we believe in it from our customer service and sales to accounting across the board. And the things that we'll be talking about today is a few of these things. Testing 101, making it a part of your culture. So I heard a couple people say, well, we're a small company, what do we do to test? And there's so many things that you can do to test, be usability testing, A/B testing, talking to your customers once you've launched something, though I prefer to do it prior to launching something when you can. But it doesn't matter how small you are, you can still test. Avoiding testing pitfalls. Now, obviously, there's a lot more than I can go through today. That would be a whole day. But a few things that if you're starting out, it'll help you know what you should test. For the ones that we'll go through is how small is too small to test, how big is too big to test, and how many times should I fail before I give up. And finally, testing prioritization. Just because you should test it doesn't mean you should test it right now, and trying to figure out when you should test it. So making it a part of your company culture when it comes to testing, you should ask your employees. They are the ones that are on the front lines. If you have a brick and mortar, or in our case, we have a massive customer service and sales department. We have about 100 people that are answering calls every day, talking to customers about what they want, what kind of blinds they want, what they're looking for when they're trying to feel comfortable about buying this complex purchase online. And then reward people for good ideas. So what we like to do is when we do a test that's based on an idea from like a customer service or a sales rep, we'll actually tell everyone about it. Like, hey, this person within sales gave us this idea. One small idea that we had once was one of our sales reps was saying that people didn't understand the difference between width and height. And why don't you just put a little arrow by width and height, and we'll see if that helps. Well, we did it, and we saw a dramatic increase in conversion and a reduction in the amount of errors. So we rewarded her. We talked about it. We gave her a monetary reward, and that's something that we just like to do when it comes to please bring us the ideas. Ask your customers for ideas. Throughout the day-to-day, I've heard great ideas, from 4C, from emails, from talking to them. We use 4Q. We also do a 30-day email to our customers after they've purchased about, hey, if there's one thing that you could change about your entire purchasing process, what would it be? And it is amazing the kind of feedback that we get. And you can't just request the feedback, you actually have to look at it. So one of the things that we do is in our weekly team meetings, one person is tasked, we rotate it, with looking through every email that's come in that week and tell us about what the customers are saying. And then we actually assign tasks every week based on that feedback. Watch their actions to find out what matters to your audience. Looking at pathing, we use Omniture, but whatever you use. Omniture results, look at heat mapping where people are looking, and all this will give you great ideas. But after you have great ideas, you then need to test it rather than just design. So getting into those pitfalls that I talked about. How small is too small to test? Now, we're big believers, as I've said, on basically testing everything. But there is sometimes when something is too small. You need to have it be big enough to make a difference. Also do obvious changes first. So if there is something bigger that you can do first, that'll kind of let you know where it'll go, you should do that prior. And the biggest thing to see if it's too small is if it's measurable in a timely manner. So what I mean by that is we use the 4-week test. Can we get results that we can act on in 4 weeks? We're a very quick shop. We don't like to just sit around with something testing. If something's been testing for 4 weeks and we don't feel confident, we'll turn it off, reiterate, try something different. But you really should think of that beforehand so you don't waste your time. So I have an example of something that we tested. So when you're putting up your sales, you might not think this is something I should test. I mean, I'm going to have sales, but what can you test about it? Well, recently we started testing the order the sales are presented to our customers. So here's an example, I think, from January. Oh no, February. So we had a few slides and we tested them. Which one do you think would have won out of those? I mean, this is a pretty nice sale. The other one was on our house brand, and the first one was just about a consultative person that you can call. We have a face-to-face program where you can actually talk to somebody online. And we actually found out that the consultative person you could talk to online increased conversion. And more interestingly, we didn't see a spike in appointments set up. Just the idea of having that comfort, someone from an internet company, that scary kind of thing that you could talk to, that actually increased the conversion for the site as a whole. Now, we also don't just stop there. We tested this at the beginning of the month, but then later in the month, maybe that 20% sale would be better because the urgency is there, it's about to end. So we proceed to test even once we have a winner. Okay, we'll leave that there for a while and then test again. How big is too big to test? So there's some things like a complete site rebrand or a big funnel that you can't just test pieces of it, that you might think is too big to test. So my first thing that I would prefer you to do is try to find ways to break it up. For example, back in 2011, we did a rebrand of our site, but we tried to break it down into manageable pieces. So we did the navigation first, and then we did an A/B test of the navigation to see, did the navigation by itself change anything? Then we did the home page. Okay, does that by itself do anything? Does the category page by itself do anything? And you need to just make sure that people aren't completely dropped off at that next point where they get very upset. One thing that you can do, though, to see if it works is maybe look at pathing instead of full site conversion. So you can see if they click to the next page, then you can determine it's a winner and then move forward. You just don't want to end up in that, I'm developing for 3 months to test something that may not work, because that's a big waste of everyone's time. But if you can't break it up, there is also usability testing. So something that we've recently decided to do with Blinds is we're testing a new checkout flow. So right now, this is the beginning of the current checkout flow. Very exciting. We wanted to make it better, but we felt that we needed to do a little testing before we said this is the way we're going to go. So if you can press play. So this is our new design. Now, you might say, that looks like a lot of development work, considering you're saying don't do a lot of development work. What we did is we made a working mock-up. So it's basically just Photoshop rendering, where people can actually enter in all the fields and click the key buttons, not everything. And we used usertesting.com to get some feedback before we even spent the time developing all of this. And we actually did get some interesting feedback. Overall, they love the look, yes. And it was funny, someone earlier today talked about the making the buttons grayed out. We also had that discussion, and I was very happy to hear that that didn't work because we went the opposite way. But Users love to look, but they noticed that there weren't any testimonials. On our previous version, we had one static testimonial that we thought, oh, that can't be adding value, it's just static. Apparently it is. So now we're going to have to go back and retool it a little bit and make sure that we add that back in. Some users were confused. They thought they were done when they entered their shipping information. We did have like an extra step where they could confirm it. Now knowing that they felt, I don't even need to confirm it, we're going to make it a optional step. Small things for further review, like the font is too small in some places or the wording of buttons, just little things that make you think of it, and it's better to know it now when you can make small tweaks before you've developed it the whole way. Finally, how many times should I fail before I give up? When it comes to testing, you're going to fail a lot, and that's one of our experimentation without fear of failure that we talk about. If you feel that something should work but isn't succeeding, don't give up. What we like to do is test different iterations 3 to 4 times, and then take a break. If you're not finding, you shouldn't just move on to another subject matter, but don't give up. Leave it on your plan and come back to it once you feel like you have an idea of what could make it work. So this is an example of trying to improve our category page header. We knew that this could not be the best way. It just couldn't. There's no way that this would be what people wanted to see. So we started iterations, coming up with different ways, and we tested, and we tested, and we tested, and we tested. And we finally found a winner, which was interesting because it was kind of a mix between the content-centric one and the big image. And you know, this was probably a month and a half worth of work. We did try to do other tests in between just to give our minds a break, but it was well worth it. And now we have a category page header that we feel, you know, is something we could be proud of. Finally, I wanted to talk to you about testing prioritization. Now, hopefully, y'all are brimming with ideas of things that you should now test, but how should you test it? How should you prioritize it? At Blinds, we have a testing committee. So that consists of a few people within marketing as well as special guests from outside of marketing, where every 2 weeks we look at a spreadsheet and prioritize it based on things like impact, resources required, prerequisites, time to complete test, time to prep, time until results, other things like, you know, is IT required in any way, because that makes it take longer. And we take all of that into consideration when saying this is what we're going to test. Once we've decided what we're going to test, we both email it out to all the marketing team, and we actually have a board in our office right where people walk in when they come in that says this is what's testing right now, and this is how it's doing. We also do a see if it sticks mentality. Now, for everyone outside of the testing committee, they can either email me, or if they have access, which all of the marketing team does, they can go straight into the spreadsheet and add it. They don't need to go through all these prioritized by things. That would impede the initial creativity of the idea. They don't know what could be tested or what can't. So we'd rather them put it up there, then we'll go through and figure it out. So to wrap it up, to have a better designed and higher converting website, because through these things we've been able to increase our website conversion by 15% year over year over year, just by being very consistent in this. You should make testing part of your culture, inspire and cultivate great ideas, test everything that makes sense, avoiding the pitfalls of the too big, too small, and too early. And then prioritize your testing. Just because it should be tested, other items may need to be tested first to make it a worthwhile test. Thank you. Any questions?